Welcome to All About France. Today we'll be talking about why the French beheaded their king, and why didn't England do the same. England was able to keep their monarch because they kept switching rulers, and there was always a strong parliament that kept judging whether or not to keep the ruler. Once they discovered a problem, they tried to change it. The French didn't have this. They had political, philosophical, economic, and social causes that led to the French Revolution and the beheading of their king. Let's start with political. King Louis XIV had lots of power, but he weakened the power of the nobles. He ate a lot, and almost all of the art in France glorified him. He was an absolute monarch. He was vain, and people were sick of it. His wars ruined France. This might lead to a revolution because he ruled in an unequal manner. This equality brings us to our next cause, philosophy. The scientific revolution and the Enlightenment was a time of new discoveries and new thinking. It was all about questioning what they knew. For instance, everyone thought that the Earth was the center of the universe, but Copernicus discovered that actually the sun was the center of the universe. This idea challenged the church because the church believed in the earth being the center of the universe. Now, if the church was wrong, the people thought that the government might be wrong too. So, scientific answers led to the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was even more about philosophy and equality. For instance, Wollstonecraft believed in women's rights. It was also about the pursuit of happiness and overall advancement in society. So, this led to even more revolutionary thinking because they shouldn't accept absolute monarchy because that was not equality for all people. This continues to the next step because people want to be equal and have some power over the government. And that leads us to the American Revolution. They didn't want the British government to rule them anymore. The American colonies paid taxes, and they were not happy about it. This eventually led to the tea in the Boston Harbor. They won the American Revolution, and they made the Declaration of Independence. So the French thought, if Americans can do it, we can do it, and gain independence from our corrupt government. This leads to the economic cause of the revolution, because the Americans were not happy with their taxes, and so was France. In France, there was a class system. People in the third class had to pay the most taxes, and it was very unfair because they were the poorest out of all the classes, and they would just get poorer. People in the two upper classes were way richer, and they would just get richer because they didn't have very many taxes. The third class system is meanwhile starving, and the extravagant spending of their king resulted in debt. Another problem was King Louis XVI's wife. People in the third class didn't like her because she spent money like crazy. These monarchs were also rumored to be hiding food from the people. All of this led up to the revolution because if they don't have enough food, they can't live, so they might as well revolt. They rioted over the price of bread. The people eventually broke into the palace, and the king and queen escaped. The people then adopted the Declaration of the Rights of Man. They saw King Louis trying to escape, so they captured him and made him agree to a limited monarchy. So, the Legislative Assembly now had more power over the king. Austria and Prussia wanted King Louis to be the absolute monarch again. But the French were enraged, so they went to war. Chaos broke out and many were massacred. A radical political group named the Jacobins executed King Louis XVI by guillotine. So why did all of these things result in the beheading of King Louis XVI? And why didn't England do the same thing? Well, England's monarchs never married a spouse that was largely disliked by people. Austria wouldn't have been so involved in the war if King Louis didn't marry Marie Antoinette. England had a parliament that would limit the power of the monarch, but France didn't. France beheaded their king because they had an absolute monarchy for a long time. They also learned about other revolutions like the American Revolution, and they got revolutionary ideas from the Scientific Revolution and the Enlightenment. Ideas of separation of powers, equality, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion. Also, unfair taxes, scarce food, and an unequal social class system resulted in the beheading of King Louis XVI.